Okay, so I'm gonna say this is my diagram of the hypothalamic-pituitary-ovarian axis. So I'm gonna say here, we have up here, I'm gonna say I just wrote the parts. So right here actually is our hypothalamus. So I'm gonna say it would be this portion up here that I have illustrated. So we have our surge and tonic, and then connected to it, we have our anterior pituitary gland. So I have written over here the GnRH, which is our gonadotropin releasing hormone, which comes from our hypothalamus, which in turn, I'm gonna say affects everything that we do have here. So our anterior pituitary gland, we have two hormones that come from it. As you can see here, our FSH and our LH, which are our follicle stimulating hormone and luteinizing hormone. So what I'm going to focus on first is like this portion right here that we have. So when our GnRH has a surge, which is like when we have, if we look at a graph here, it would go like this, would have a spike. So when our GnRH has a surge here, our LH is going to have a surge. So when our LH is like, our GnRH stimulates our LH, so it's going to stimulate that receptor. And then if we have a surge of our GnRH, we're going to have a surge of our LH, which in turn ovulates our ovary. And ovulating our ovary, we are going to have an initiation form of CL, which is our corpus luteum, which we see here. So it goes from stimulating like a surge of our GnRH, and then like stimulating our LH receptor, which is surge, which is going to ovulate our ovary, which initiates to forms their corpus luteum, which in turn our corpus luteum produces a progesterone. And so when we have this, all the levels of our hormones, like our estrogen, for example, are low. And so then this is going to go back into our hypothalamus and anterior pituitary gland. And I'm going to say if we have another surge from our GnRH, we're going to we're going to initiate the formation of this. But if we have a tonic release of GnRH, we're going to have a tonic release of our LH, which in turn maintains our corpus luteum. So in turn, it's just going to keep this formation. And with this forming, we aren't going to have any of this here. So like our follicle growth, like instead of becoming a follicle, it became our corpus luteum. So when this starts to like die down and this disappears, we're going to have our FSH be stimulated instead, which in turn does our ovary growth and development, which we have here. And then once we have our FSH, it's going to have our stimulating of follicle growth, and our follicles produce two different types of hormones. So like our estrogen is going to produce our estradiol, which creates a positive feedback, which then in return will keep producing more and more follicles. But also our follicle growth produces the hormone inhibin, which is located right here, which has a negative feedback, and that's going to regulate our FSH release. So therefore, like in regulating this, the negative feedback is going to it inhibits the release of additional FSH during estrogen, which induces like the GnRH surge. So like with this, regulating this and inhibiting it, it's going to make us go back to where we first talked about. So like it's going to create the GnRH surge. With a GnRH surge, we're going to have an LH surge, which is going to create our corpus luteum again, which we talked about previously. So in turn, with like our follicles here, they're going to inhibit the FSH so they don't keep forming more and more follicles. First, they're going to like form the follicles, and then they're going to in turn be released eventually. And then I'm going to say until like our cycle learns that it's no longer in heat and we'll need to go back to heat, we're going to form more follicles. But with having follicles already and inhibiting, we're going to have just our formation of our corpus luteum, which is going to produce, like I said earlier, a progesterone, which is going to be present when all other hormones are in a lower state.